Hey kids, it's time to get some SML podcast all up in that.
What's up, everyone? This is the SML Podcast. I am your host, Joe. It's another Wednesday episode, which means game reviews, and we have a shitload to take care of tonight. Starting things off like we usually do. Pernell Vaughan's here. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay, albeit with fiery red eyes and a severe need to sleep. How about you?
I would say the same thing, but I have a feeling our reasonings are different.
Oh, well, what's your reasoning? I'm hoping it's not, well, how rather than hope, I'll just hear. What was it?
It's inhaling stuff.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh. Okay, then.
That's why my eyes are burning and why I'm extremely tired.
That ain't for me. Shoot, my reasoning is some mysterious thing that's just causing my eye to flare up. It's driving me nuts. And
so my reason's better than yours.
yeah, I would have to say so. I'm assuming that your reason doesn't make you rub your eye in an itchy sensation.
No, mine makes me hungry.
Yeah, just nip, num, num, num. But no, that's right. Aside from that, I'm good. Playing a lot of stuff lately, as you know.
Oh yeah, you have a shitload of games to talk about, Pernell.
Oh my God, yes. It's kind of absurd, but in a good way. Like I don't remember the last time I had this many games to experience kind of all at once. But it's like you make a schedule. Yes, it's that way. You make a schedule and you go, I want to go to work, come home, go to the gym, I'm going to eat some dinner, I might chat with a friend on the phone, and then I'm going to block out the entire evening to this game, and then possibly the next evening too. And then you just stack them out. And then the weekend comes, you're like, okay, I got all day to play these games and then all night to do stuff, get outside and socialize or whatever. And it's interesting because I managed to actually get some time with every single game.
Well, I would hope you had time with all the games.
Except for that one game, the one I didn't have time for. But heck with that game. Nah, who am I kidding?
Don't tell me which one. We'll figure it out as the show progresses.
It's all mystery. It could be
so tell us about this game, Pernell. Let's see.
There's an apple. I think you eat it, and it gives you health. And the health feels good on your body. When you really get tired, you can put the game to sleep and come back, and it'll still be there to resume. I like that. Game over. I would dread the day that became a review that I or anyone I know ever had to put out. Like, this game is nice because it was programmed by humans and made available for retail purchase.
That's the way to do it, man.
No, it's not. Who the hell? Well, this guy had a very valid point in the fact that the game was made to exist by those who wanted to profit off of their imagination and programming prowess. No one would say that. No one would do that. And who am I kidding? Some people probably would do that. Those are the people that are just like, well, Nintendo can sell anything. No. Why do you want this game? Because they made it.
Yeah, that's good reason for a lot of games.
Oh, it's not.
What, wanting a game?
No, wanting it solely because it exists. Like I can make a game. Well, I can't. I'm not a fucking programmer. But you could make a game. The game could turn out to be really good. That's the first game. And you're like, all right, I can't wait for the sequel. Blah, blah, blah. And then the company is like, yep, we're going to phone this fucker in because no one's going to care. No one's going to even rate it or be critical of it because it's just an anticipated sequel. So we'll just slap the name on the cover, throw some stick figures in it, bam, done. And then somebody goes there and buys it. It's like, this game, I got to warn you, it's not what you thought. I played it. It was fun. It was not fun. It was bad, actually, and very disappointing. And here are some very strong reasons why. This is not just a Pernell just dislikes the game. There are reasons why no one should like it. And the person responds goes, well, I just want it. It's out, and that's enough reason to like it. So I have to play that. Like, what? No. No. This is not a differing opinion thing. This is a literal, we just phoned this shit in thing. There's a difference between we worked hard on a game and we just, one likes it and one doesn't. But again, you got cats that'll just go, well, I just want to get it because they made it, and I just want to support them. Like, I like to support good companies and good games. I don't blind support, though, because I really don't see the point in a world where games are dripping off the cone. Do I really need to just blind support a company? No, I really don't. There's enough out there. Make good games, and I can guarantee you'll get my money. Otherwise, I ain't top of that. Nor the money. I don't have either.
That's how it should be. Make a good game, and you get sales. Make a shitty game, and you don't.
That's the truth. That is the truth. Your name, at best, should give me reason to look at your stuff more so than other companies. But no matter what your name is, no matter how many good titles you've put out in the past, every new game gets reviewed and looked over with fresh eyes. No coasting. You know that coasting crap. Not in my house anyway. So I only support the good shit. Sometimes the average stuff too, because average can be fun. It's like
average can be fun.
Better believe it. You know. And one man's average is another man's holy shit. Another man's holy shit can be that guy's. This is barftastic.
Barftastic. That's a good one.
Yeah. It's on the house. On the house. It's discounted for you.
But speaking of high-profile sequels, you got one to start off with. Should we get these going?
Is it called Barftastic?
Sadly, no. It's Barftastic 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Oh, all right. I was saying here, I thought someone missed an opportunity. Clearly, they did not.
I mean, I said sequel, so it would have to be 2.
That is true. Barftastic Boogaloo.
Barftastic
Barf Boogaloo. Hardest. Barf harder.
Barf. Oh, God. But you ready to start these reviews?
Let's go. This is going to be a deep dive.
This is going to be a long one, so buckle in, people. First game to talk about tonight is called Rage 2, developed by id Software and Avalanche Studios, published by Bethesda Softworks, released May 14th on Xbox One, PS4, and PC for $59.99. Rage 2 brings together two studio powerhouses, Avalanche Studios, master of open world insanity, and id Software, creators of the first-person shooter, to deliver a carnival of carnage where you can go anywhere, shoot anything, and explode everything. Pernell, tell us about Rage 2.
Wow, that was a powerful intro. Like, anywhere, anything, the father of shooting. Like, okay, well, shoot. But aside from that immaculate display of words, the game itself is also a rather excellent display of gameplay. So Rage 2, I'm gonna put this out there. I'd never played Rage 1. So if you're looking for how does it differ from the prequel, then I don't have it for you. I can't. I don't have it. But what this game does is it kind of builds off of the first game in a way where if you haven't played it, it doesn't matter. It's just an excuse to get you out there blowing shit up. So the premise is you are a person who goes by Walker. You choose whatever gender you want to be. And no matter which one you choose, you get some pretty cool voiceover work to voice over the character and his or her interactions with the other NPCs. But anyway, you choose the character during an onset assault on your base by what would come to be known as the evil Authority Realm group. I guess they just called themselves the Authority. But anyway, the Authority group from the previous game, who rose back up with the intent being to pretty much wipe out humanity and start over with these like superhumans or whatever.
So they're friendly.
Yeah, friendly involves killing you in hopes of new game plus. Yeah, they're very friendly. They're very friendly. But these people have shown up. They ransack your home, and of course kill the mentor character that they very briefly introduced to you. It's like, hey, here's a person you're supposed to care about. Not anymore. You might think that's a spoiler, but it really isn't. We're talking 5 minutes into the game as an excuse to just get you out there doing shit. So after this happens, you are forced out into the wild in the hopes of getting help from 3 former members of the war in order to trigger a super plan. I can't remember what it's called, Project Dagger, And that would ultimately be the means of which to stop this evil villain who goes by the name of General Cross and saving the day. That makes, like I said, an excuse to go out and get stuff done. Because what happens is once this whole thing triggers off, you get yourself access to something known as a Ranger suit. This Ranger suit can be powered up with various abilities that can be found throughout the map in places known as arcs. So as you're exploring the world, you might come across these giant hives, I'll call them. And you have to find your way into the hive and then access a new ability or new weaponry once you're inside of these containers. This, in my opinion, is the real meat and potatoes of the game, because some people come to these FPS games with the intent being to, progress and come across a vibrant tale of woe and intrigue and whatever. I'm not that guy. I like the idea of a game that gives me a cool world to run around in, lots of interesting stuff to do, upgrades on top of the wazoo to build up my unit, and make it all fun as I'm engaging in those things. And I feel as though Rage 2 pulled that off, because the abilities that you get are pretty cool, whether it be like a double jump or a force punch that will ultimately knock off armor and shields from enemies. It's kind of fun to just throw a punch and just watch a guy fly across the screen while his armor's falling off of his body. It feels powerful. And whether it be those abilities or your guns or your personal stats, everything can be upgraded. Everything. You get vehicles in this game. You start out with one really cool one that talks to you, kind of like Kit from Knight Rider.
Nice.
And as you roll around the landscape with it, it'll occasionally, give you word about certain things you can stumble across. Like, hey, there's a thing over here you might want to check out. Or it'll just give you like little wacky quips. But this vehicle is fantastic. Honestly, there's a ton of other vehicles in the game, though I mostly spent time with this, like I said, this starting talking vehicle, because there's almost no reason not to use it. It has guns, whose ammo you can refill by going to shops in the different safe haven towns and purchasing the ammunition. It has, again, upgrades to it. And this, along with any other vehicle that you happen to find in the landscape and bring back to a safe haven, can be summoned to you at any time on the map with a small cost of cash that you can find. And just say, I want my vehicle here now. Summon it, boom, vehicle's there, you're driving around. Nice. And if you need to repair the vehicle, it's simply, you don't have to go look around for a bunch of pick-me-ups or whatever. You just get out of the car, run around the front, and do the equivalent of like just digging around under the hood and fixing it. In this case, holding down the focus button, which is like L1, and you're just kind of like charging the vehicle up to restore its power. It's honestly nicely streamlined. There's no need to hunt and peck for that kind of thing. Though, I will say the upgrade thing will take some getting used to, because, like I said, you can upgrade everything in the game from your stats to your vehicle, and they all use different types of resources to do it. So vehicles use auto parts. Your weapons use something called, what's that stuff called? I can't even remember the name of the stuff. But basically, when you kill enemies, it falls off of them. It's a blue material that you can kind of either collect or use your focus to draw into you. And you use that to upgrade your weaponry. And then there's, again, other weapons. There's like nano cores, which you can use to upgrade your nano abilities, like the force punch I told you about and the double jump that you get in the game. And there's others which I'm not going to name. So all these things can be earned in different ways, and it just takes getting used to, but it's nothing that's ultimately going to hurt the game. It's just, again, it's just part of the meat and potatoes and a good excuse to go out there and kick the shit out of stuff. As you're exploring the landscape, you'll come across a variety of locations, all of which may need some sort of mission accomplished. So let me describe this. So, for example, you might be driving your car down the road, and out of nowhere, a flying vessel will fly by and dump a security sentry onto the ground, and that security sentry will just start blasting lasers at you. So you can either just run from it and then live to fight another day, or you can say, screw it, I don't care about that so much, and just go try to blow the thing up, and that counts as sort of like a mission. You go over and you attack it while it's attacking you, and if you can destroy it, you get resources, you'll get some experience point, more resources for potential level ups of other abilities, and it just feels good to blow the damn thing up. And it's like one more tick box you can remove from your list of many, 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 many available missions that this game has for the player to engage in. So, progress in the game. How does the progress work? How do you actually move the game forward? So, earlier I mentioned how you have to locate three, prominent figures in order to initiate something known as Project Dagger. So, the region of the game is divided up in like 3 different distinct areas. And each of those distinct areas is run by one of the figures that I mentioned before. As you complete missions within each region, you will level up that character's, let's say their status tree, just call it that. And if you get enough experience points within that tree, you'll level them up. And as you level up the character, you gain access to more projects, which are more things that you can level up, like I mentioned earlier, and also access to more story missions that they can issue you that will actually move the plot forward. So, give you an example, you might meet one of the characters who's a scientist, and he will then tell you, okay, I need you to investigate this location that's way on the other side of the freaking map. Oh my God, that drove me nuts, which I'll get to in a minute. And at that point, your next task is to get over to that location, investigate it, and initiate the sequence he wants you to do so he can get his laboratory up and running. And then it'll be like a sequence of story missions related to that guy, which once you complete them all, that'll be one aspect of Project Dagger Down. So you'll be doing that a lot pretty much to get the story moving along. So I rambled a lot about just general stuff, but the most important part about the game is the combat, the first-person combat for that matter. Is it fun? Do you want to engage in it in order to earn all the crap that I'm talking about?
That's what I want to know, because the first game was a blast.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. I can't compare it to the first, but I can tell you this one is a blast. It is a lot of freaking fun. And I'm going to tell you something. It doesn't function like I'm expecting what I typically expect the FPS to function like. So this game incentivizes you to get down and dirty, not look for cover and hide out and pick guys off. It wants you to get your hands dirty, get out there and just take out mobs of dudes. Why is that? Well, 2 things. One, that's what it's called, feltrite. Boom! It just came to me. So the blue resource I mentioned earlier is referred to as feltrite. And as you kill enemies, you will accrue this resource. It's a temporary, it doesn't stay on the screen for long. If you wait too long, it will disappear, which means you need to be actually out there where the enemies are so that when you kill them, you can pick it up before it disappears. That's one reason why you need to be in the thick of things. The second reason is something known as overdrive. So as you kill guys and take damage and pick up items in a constant flow, you will build up an overdrive gauge. And once the overdrive gauge peaks out, hit the 2 triggers and you'll turn it on. It makes your guy go on a sort of euphoric state, sort of like you and your red eyes. And what it does, I called that back. And once that happens, what ends up occurring is your character ends up going like a state where they get they go faster, and they can reload their gun faster. They can kind of absorb some damage. They're not invincible, but they absorb more damage, and it basically builds like a multiplier to acquire more feltrite at a quicker rate. So you'll want to be engaging in that sort of thing quite a bit, which means, again, the hinting and pecking in the background, dodge shots, isn't the most advised thing, which is funny because there are actually some pretty brutal enemies in this game, depending on what difficulty you play on. I actually heard a number of people complain about how the game is pretty easy no matter how you slice it, but I don't play on normal. I play on hard, and I'm not the best at FPSs in general. So take that with a grain of salt. But between those 2 things, there were definitely some firefights that gave me a run for my money. So I didn't sleep through this game as I played it. And when you think you got the handle on like fighting the basic goon enemies, and there's some pretty funny enemies. There's like characters who like lob grenades in the air and then whack them at you with baseball bats. You can actually hear the wood hit the grenade. There's a guy who I can almost never see because I always fight him at night. But he's like a pyromaniac who's like throwing fire grenades at you, and he's dancing around looking ridiculous. But when you think you got the handle on certain enemies, you're like, okay, there's nothing left to really see. The game will surprise you with a new enemy that just blows you away like a freaking like Truckosaurus. Which the first time I saw one, that's why I refer to him as the truck junk. I think it's called like a junk mech, but he's Truckosaurus to me. First time I saw him, I freaked the hell out because he just sprayed the screen with bullets in a way that I wasn't used to in the game at that point, and I took cover trying to figure out what the hell I wanted to do next. But the game has a way of surprising with new units, and typically that occurs when you go to new regions in the game. So Don't feel as though you'll get truly bored, because between seeing new enemies here and there and also finding new weapons within arcs and new abilities within arcs, you'll always find new ways to want to kill guys, and you'll find new guys that want to kill you. So
always good.
As a very good thing. Like I said, I genuinely couldn't give two craps about the plot. I'm a horrible person in that regard. But I had a great time interacting with the different characters and hearing their nonsense gibberish, because there's some hilarious dialogue that comes up from some of the NPCs. Like, there's like a freaking like pastor character in the swamp area that was like worshiping a giant like swamp monster out in the distance, and it was like, "Hey, oh, hallelujah, praise the swamp lord," and they're like, "Wow, okay, you're a weird bitch." But the characters are great. The writing for those characters is pretty good, and I just enjoy interacting with those people. But but I wasn't really enticed with the plot. The plot itself isn't bad. It's just, let's be honest, it's not a novella. That's not the reason you come to play Rage 2. So, but all in all, I mean, unless I'm forgetting to mention something in particular that you can think of.
My big thing was whether or not it's fun, because I already spent my money and picked it up. I just haven't had time to fire it up yet. So
yeah, it is a great time. And to give you 100% reason why I would even extend that is the fact that, like I mentioned earlier, FPSs, I'm not the best at those. And the last one I played, though I enjoyed it, was Far Cry 5. And I felt like after playing Far Cry 5, I felt like I kind of had experienced what you're going to get out of a FPS in this day and age. It's usually, massive overworld. Here's a bunch of missions. Here, check off a bunch of boxes, da-da-da-da. But while I will admit Rage 2 is check off a bunch of boxes, fulfill a bunch of missions, the way you go about doing that in the gameplay perspective feels a lot fresher and nicer than I was expecting it to. Like, I actually enjoy this game a lot more than I enjoyed Far Cry 5. Ooh. The combat is more fun. The exploration, I guess, is still pretty much that kind of fun. It's not as lively, I'll say, because, in all due honesty, it makes sense. I mean, Far Cry 5 took place in, like, the United States before a nuke hit it, whereas Rage 2 takes place in a wasteland. So a wasteland clearly is not going to have as much color and life in it as the equivalent of a national forest. So in that regard, I think Far Cry won. But it doesn't mean the game doesn't have stuff going on. Weird stuff happens. You'll see cars driving down the road in a race, which, by the way, if you see cars racing on the highway, you can just push a button to honk your horn, and you can race the cars that are on the highway. Just actually like racing right now. So you can like drag races. One thing that I kind of like is that while there are shops in the main settlements, you can also just magically stumble across the occasional guy driving down the road who runs a shop, honk your horn, he pulls over, you get out of your car, and you go shop out the back of his truck. It's kind of cool like that. I enjoyed a lot of it. There's only one complaint I have about the game, and this is something I think they could, and I hope they do maybe patch out, or at least maybe give an ability later on that you can like kind of remedy it, which is that the map is freaking huge, really huge, and quick travel only happens between like trade settlement areas. So what that means is that you can only quick travel between like major towns, not even small towns, only major towns. Sometimes that's great. Other times you might find yourself still kind of screwed for a long drive because there's no closer work point than the one you have access to, and you'll wish there was a better one. So it'd be kind of cool if they even had like an ability that you could unlock where you could like drop a waypoint. Like maybe they give you like a limited number of waypoints. You can say, I want to put a waypoint here, which will allow me to warp there whenever I want. And if I ever need to change it, I can always say, okay, I get like 5 waypoints for the game. I just have to reclaim one and move it somewhere else, dump it here, now I can warp there. I think that would be awesome, and it would be a nice remedy for something like that.
That'd be cool.
But and while at the same time, it wouldn't outright just break the game, because if they made it too easy to warp to places, well, it would kind of defeat the purpose of having vehicles and exploring a wasteland, right?
True.
So I think something like that would be perfect for this kind of game. But that's honestly the only gripe I've had about my experience with this game. I've been enjoying it hand over fist. I personally don't even feel like the game is short because, yeah, you can beat the story relatively quickly, but speaking as a guy who, again, doesn't chase the plot, I'm running around doing stuff, and that takes much, much longer to do as long as you're not just focusing on just beating the plot and moving on with them to the next game. This game has a lot of meat on its bones. And if you really want to dive into its depths, upgrade all your abilities, finish all the missions, engage in all the side plots, you'll be in the wasteland for a very long time. So don't sleep on this bad boy. It is a good time.
Well, then for $60, what do you say?
I think it's $60 worth of purchase.
Sounds
and
good.
Well worth your money.
That is very good to hear because I did the 120 edition with the talking mutant head. A talking mutant head.
Was like an actual like giant head that sits on your desk?
You know those Billy Big Mouth Bass talking fish?
Oh, put me back in the water.
Imagine that, but a mutant head.
Now that's pretty gross.
Voiced by Andrew W.K.
Worth the money.
Yes.
Does it ever mention parties?
I don't remember what all the voice clips were. It sings.
I feel like it should have at least one clip that references a party.
I'll have to fire it back up and check what all the quotes were. But moving on, the next game to talk about is called Rock of Ages 2 Bigger and Boulder, developed by Ace Team, published by SEGA of America, released May 14th on the Switch for $14.99. The greatest rock racing tower defense art history game is back. Like the title says, Bigger and Boulder cranks up the surrealism and gameplay with chaotic 4-player online multiplayer, new time periods, improved graphics, physics, and destructibility to be, well, bigger and bolder. Pernell, tell us about it.
I feel weird because one of the selling points is the online, and I didn't bother with that. I focused on the Pernell special, which is local solo single-player gameplay.
That's okay.
But, I hope so, because it's still a jam. Like, fun thing, following Rage 2, whose prequel I never played, here's Rock of Ages 2, whose prequel I've also never played. So this is a fresh experience to me. And I'll be blunt. The reason why I didn't play the original Rock of Ages was because it looked stupid to me. Like I can't hold that back. It didn't look good. So I felt the need to state that because I think I needed to see it in motion or something. Because playing the game, you ever play a game where the plot or the premise is so absurd, or an event that occurs is just so absurd that you can't help but just kind of stare at the game with a smile on your face, but not sure quite how to contort the smile because you're just kind of dumbfounded by the absurdity that you are laying witness to on your screen. Rock of Ages is that game. The premise is that I believe, I could be wrong here, I don't think it's Sisyphus, I think it's Atlas, but basically Atlas and his boulder, the globe, actually it might be Sisyphus, because Sisyphus pushed a boulder, Atlas held a globe, but basically one of those two guys falls to earth, chasing after a boulder that gets knocked out of his hands. And what that ends up entailing, I don't know why it does, but it results in you having to do tower defense boulder rolling battle against various figures of history. And those figures of history are animated using an interesting art form. It's almost like paper mache art. And none of their scenarios make any sense. And it doesn't matter because it's freaking hysterical. Vincent Van Gogh eats his own ear to regrow it on his head, and he chases after you and he barfs paint it. It's
beautiful.
It's beautiful, man. It's so weird and so beautiful. But those are mainly just setups, just wacky setups to get you into each level within the story campaign. Story campaign is basically a large world map where the boulder that you control rolls around the map. And three things happen here. One, you can come across stages. When you come to a stage, you can choose the difficulty setting for it and then enter it. And the gameplay becomes, for the main mode, which is war mode, becomes a matter of two identical sides of a map. So think like two sides of a mirror. And what happens is you have a boulder parked at one end of a continuous lane that weaves and bobs or whatever. And on the other end of that lane is a fortress with a large steel door, and behind that door lies the historical figure who you're trying to kill with your giant boulder. So what ends up happening is there's a period where your boulder is being chiseled. And once it's done being chiseled, you can roll it down after the castle. But while you're waiting for the boulder to be chiseled, you are able to lay down traps and deterrents for the opposing enemies race to your castle. So you get a variety of different defenses that you can place on the map to say, hey, for example, you can set down a bunch of cows, sticky cows. And if the boulder rolls over the sticky cows, they get stuck to the boulder and slow the boulder down. You can plant catapult platforms, which will launch the boulder in whatever direction the platform is pointing. Catapults to damage the boulder. Giant elephants with men riding on top that can block the boulder and fire bullets at it. The list goes freaking on. There's a lot of weird things in this game. And your goal with these defenses are either to slow the boulder down or to destroy the boulder entirely. So in the event, because basically you're trying to destroy their wall before they destroy yours. So that's why the slowing it down makes sense. So what ends up happening here is your boulder rolls down and eventually it gets to the bottom of the hill. Based on a number of factors such as how much damage the boulder took, how fast it was rolling when it collided with the door, and so on. Those are the main things that it is. You'll do damage to the door. And once you've damaged it enough, you'll take the wall down and you roll over the guy and you'll murder him. And that's the end of the stage. Honestly, I enjoyed this mode quite a bit. The only gripe I had about it, though, I think it may well have been remediable with me playing on the TV, which, as you know, I don't do with the Switch because I'm weird. But it was hard to kind of get a full glimpse of what I was doing with the map. So when you're placing a little thing on the overhead map, sometimes it's hard to tell just what impact it's going to have on the actual map itself, like, because you can't see it from that perspective. It's hard to tell. But as you play more, you get used to it. But I think ultimately a good remedy for me would have been to just say flat out, just play it on the TV. But again, I played it handheld. It didn't hurt the game to the point where it was unplayable. It's just maybe it'd be better on the TV. But I honestly enjoyed this mode quite a bit. And it takes getting used to, though, because I suck at choosing which traps to use. I genuinely do. But it's all about the boulder rolling, which honestly, if I need to describe exactly how it feels to control the marble, it's like Super Monkey Ball, where obviously don't get me wrong, I gotta admit, all right, I know Super Monkey Ball, you control the mat, and in this you're controlling the marble, but I still think it's about the same. You know what I mean? You get that sensation of the boulder rolling full steam ahead, collecting speed. You get that same sensation of, crap, I gotta cut the corner, going too fast, and you roll off the cliff like, shoot. You get all those sensations back. So for a person who hasn't played Super Monkey Ball in a long time, because we haven't had a decent sequel in a long time, this felt really good to me. It felt great. In addition to the war mode, if you beat that first stage, you can revisit the level again and do something known as an obstacle course. On the obstacle course, it's the same map, but you and the opponent share the same lane, and you're trying to get to the bottom of the hill, of the lane hill, before the other person does. The AI computer determines what obstacles will be standing in your way that you're both mutually trying to avoid or whatnot. So it's just a race, which, again, is a lot of fun to do. I actually kind of prefer that to the war because I enjoy more just trying to get to the bottom than trying to set defenses to stop the other guy. I just want to roll my damn rock. But
you just want to play with your balls.
You're damn right. My big stone balls. Watch me now. And I believe, I'm pretty sure this is how I was unlocking them because I wasn't paying enough attention, but I'm pretty sure each time you beat one of the historical figures, you unlock a new boulder, which you can use to play. The boulders each have different stats, whether it be weight, the amount of damage it does, though I think damage actually refers to how much health it has, but I'm not sure. But basically there's damage, weight, acceleration, speed, and like 2 other stats. So, and also they occasionally have like cool little side abilities that attach to them. Like there's one boulder I came across that I liked a lot, though it's hard to steer. Every time you jump and make it land, because yes, you can make the rocks jump. But each time you make the rock jump and land on the ground, it leaves an ink blot, which prevents the opponent from placing defense items on the spots with the ink blot. So you can kind of like strategically blop your boulder down and choke points to make it so that they can't build stuff over them. It's kind of nice. And like I said, every boulder has different stats and different abilities to make them unique amongst the others. So as you unlock new boulders, it will expand on your strategy. The other thing I mentioned that you can do on the map, there's 2 other things. One, you can explore the map. It's not like hidden stuff or nothing. It's just like different nodes on the map. But when you come across those nodes, sometimes you'll unlock new defense items that can be placed into the main game. So you might find a mine, and the mine can be used to increase the amount of money you earn to build your defenses between rounds, so long as you strategically place them next to gold, resource builders. I don't know, gold resources. So, I mean, essentially, you'll find a bunch of defense items and a number of different boulder types, and you'll just kind of customize your own little layout to say this is the most opportune way to succeed at this stage, whether it be to deter the opponent or to get my boulder down fastest and most destructively. And then the last thing you can do is, I mentioned earlier how each time you do one of those events, whether it be the war mode or the obstacle course mode, you earn a star if you succeed. Those stars can be used to unlock star gates, which will lead you to more courses and more items. It's a pretty nice loop. And honestly, it's kind of funny because it's not 3 stars, the usual dreaded Pernell 3-star rating, which I admit, I don't think I've had to deal with in quite some time. So maybe I'm going to, when it happens again, I'm going to have to be like, it's been so long I can't even hate it anymore. But it doesn't even have 3 stars. I think each level mostly has at minimum. Some of them have 2 stars. So you won't always be doing a 3-star shuffle. But overall, I mean, that's the main mode I stuck with. I didn't even bother with the other stuff, which is kind of unfortunate because I wager that the multiplayer modes are pretty cool too. Though I'm going to also just throw it out there as a random thought that the multiplayer modes are likely similar to the ones in the main game, being obstacle course, where you're just racing your friends to the bottom of a hill on one of the various stages you can unlock, or war mode, where you are setting up defenses to block your friends' boulders from getting to your castle while you're trying to destroy their castle.
Yeah.
All of which, where if I was playing them with my friends, I think it would be a lot of fun. So there is no fault in that. And I'm also going to speculate that the obstacle course randomizes the placement of all the obstacles on it. So if you were playing it with multiplayer, you'd likely be doing a number of different levels, but the obstacles on those levels would change placement all the time. So it never truly feels like the same thing, even though there are specifics to each level that makes them uniquely theirs. So, but the most important thing to accept about this game is the fact that re-mention something I said at the beginning of the review. Don't let the looks deceive you. Don't look at stills and go, this game looks like it's for nut jobs. This is stupid. No. Go into the game, let it be animated. Listen to the gibberish that they spout and all the weird whatever that just goes with it, because it's ridiculous, and ridiculous is fun. But in addition, behind all that wacky shit is a very fun, very entertaining game that I am glad I was able to review, because if I did not review it, I would have never engaged in it, and I would have not realized what I was missing out on. So Rock of Ages 2 is legit. It's bigger and bolder.
Yes, that is in fact the title of the game.
I had this. Well, I love the title. I had to get it out, speak it out of my own lips. But it is a good game. It is definitely worthy of the praise that the previous game received too.
Well, then $15 on it. What do you say?
I think it's a buy it as well. It is a good game, and as long as you're interested in the stuff I described, which I'll be honest, if you didn't like Super Monkey Ball, what the hell are you doing? Why? Then it is up your alley.
Seriously, it's such Monkey Ball is the best. We need a new Monkey Ball. We
really do. And to this day, I've gone to conventions as in last year and engaged in versus head-to-head Monkey Ball races still. And not, I shouldn't say races, I mean when you would pick easy, the beginner, intermediate, or advanced mode and have to get to the bottom of the stage, we would just trade off controllers and say who can get furthest down. And having not played it in so long, it feels fresh and difficult. Because that game is really difficult, but it's an enjoyable difficult.
Yeah. Well, good to hear that you enjoyed Rock of Ages as well.
I did.
All right. Well, the next game to talk about is called Blazing Beaks, developed by Applava, published by QubicGames, released May 10th on the Switch for $14.99. Blaze your way armed to the beak through hordes of mutants, monsters, and other creepy creatures, but beware, collecting too many shiny things can hurt you in this unique roguelite game. Pernell, tell us about Blazing Beaks.
Will Blazing Beaks be the actual game for this episode that I thought was hot buttered trash? Will it? Will it? Oh, damn it. No, it won't. It won't. Blazing
you ruined
Beaks.
it.
I ruined it. That's right.
All the suspense is gone.
It had to be, because I didn't got to get this game off on the right foot here. So Blazing Beaks, I've heard a lot of people talk about it in the build-up as being a game that could kill Enter the Gungeon. Get that out there right now. That is false. It is not taking out Enter the Gungeon. But it is its own he has his own quacky quirks that makes it worth a play, despite the fact that it's not taking the Gungeon throne. So what is Blazing Beaks? So, like you said earlier, it's a roguelite game where you choose one of 4 starting birds, but then 4 more can be unlocked to descend a series of stages. These stages, I honestly didn't pay a ton of attention for as much as I played the game. So I'm not even sure if they randomized the levels or not. I just went in and killed stuff. The actual locales are the same. So like you'll always start in the woods and then the graveyard or whatever, or swamp rather. But I don't remember if they randomized the layout of the stages. But anyway, what would happen? Oh, they are. Who am I kidding? They are randomized because there's a whole freaking seed generator. Duh. Yes, they're randomized.
Proud of you.
Oh, shuckle buckles. So when you choose a bird, they each come with a different amount of hit points to start, a different starting gun, and a different ability. For example, my favorite bird, even after unlocking other birds, was the chicken. The chicken has 4 hit points, and when he runs, his accuracy is extremely diminished, so he can't run and gun. He sucks at that. But the trade-off is that certain enemies will have like a marking over their head every once in a while, just like pop up over their head. And if you shoot the enemy that has a marking on his head, it's an instant 1-hit kill. So if you're smart, you'll see a guy get the pop-up, you target him, take him out, boom, he's dead. No worry about, sponging him with bullets. And it's a beautiful thing. I love that damn chicken. Also, I just like hearing when he comes in the levels. But that element is actually kind of cool. But that's not what makes Blazing Beak. Well, it is one of them that makes it unique. But most, games like this has, starting character with unique ability, blah, blah, blah. What makes Blazing Beak special? Well, that would be the artifact system. Something that I actually came to think was pretty cool in this game. So what the artifact system is in most games, you'll find an item, you'll pick it up, and boom, you got a cool new thing. In this game, that is the opposite. When you pick up stuff on the map, they are bad things. They are always bad things. You might get an item that won't let you heal yourself. You might get an item that will make you walk slower than usual. You might get a gun that will make your accuracy even worse than it already was. And you deal with that. Every time you pick one up, it's one new detriment and your risk meter goes up. Honestly, I didn't want to hold on too long because I'm a little safe wanky danky. You played on easy or as a normal mode on this game. So I honestly never get to like 5 or nothing. So I don't know what the detriment is, but I do know that more artifacts means higher risk because you'll be stacking worse and worse negative effects. So you might be asking yourself, if all these things do bad things, why in the hell are you picking them up? Well, because I'm a glutton for punishment, for one. Why the hell not? But the other reason why you pick those things up is because just like how a lot of these roguelite games tend to have shops hidden on the different levels, this game is no different. Every once in a while, you'll come across a door with a lantern over the top, and when you kill all the enemies on the screen, because that's what opens the door to the next section, of course, the door will open up to the shop, which will allow you to enter it. And once you are there, there is a crow-esque bird there that will allow you to trade in all of your negative artifacts and exchange them for good items, which will give you good perks and good abilities.
Ooh.
So it behooves you to get as many bad things as possible to run them down to this shop, which, by the way, you don't know when you'll come across a shop. So you might be setting yourself up for a really bad time, or you might just get lucky and come across a shop in the very next room. You don't know. But it becomes awesome to take these things down, trade them in, and have this burst of here's this cool thing that lets you fire bullets twice as fast or gives you a cool dash move and stuff like that. So it will be, to me, I think that's the best aspect of the game. I enjoyed doing that, like running that risk. Every couple of floors, you end up fighting a boss. And the boss will usually require some unique, wacky way to which to kill it. So it makes it make it vulnerable, and eventually you fill it with bullets and ultimately kill it. I never beat the game because I suck. But the game is fun to try. And I will say it is easier than Enter the Gungeon, which is also probably one of the perks that it carries around with it too. However, there is one detriment that I found to this game that fits this style of game, so it's worth pointing out. And that is the boss repetition. So, and this might not be a real detriment, it's just I've been spoiled by other games. So, every time you play the game, you're going to go through a series of randomly generated stages. However, the boss for each region is always the same. So, you're going to get real used to fighting the first 2-3 bosses as you slowly work your way down to the bottom of the dungeon of the game, or at the end of the game. Is that really a bad thing? Not so much. I mean, we've played Contra. You fought the same boss on those games multiple times, too. It's just the fact that I had to point out because that was one thing I thought Gungeon did well in this vein, which is that it had a multitude of bosses on each section, so you didn't always fight the same guy at the end of every time you get to the end of a stage. But not a killer, just a detriment in the sense of the overall schema. Also, I wish there were more collectibles because while there are a lot of cool guns, I don't think there's a ton of ability items. Ability items being, in addition to the items that just give you perks, there are also items that when you push one of the trigger buttons, it will initiate an effect. Like one might give you a dash ability. One might let you warp back to the starting hatch of the level, sort of like a escape from jail, escape from exploding egg situation or something like that. And it's just things like that. Cool abilities, but I wish there were more of them. But again, they're diverse enough that when you play and see them, you'll still kind of struggle to decide which one you want to use. So honestly, this game, I do find it to be an enjoyable title, and I do think that the different bird configurations, of which again there's 8, so you get your pick of the litter for who you want to use. But that and the artifact system really make this game stand out in its own little world. I would not even say that this game is a quote-unquote only experts do apply bid. Simply put, it's a get good scrub sort of situation here. The game's not too hard. I mean, it's hard to beat as it should be, but to just get accustomed to the game and have fun playing it, it's not that hard. Just sit down and try to play it. It's not a ton of buttons to juggle. It's a straightforward title. Just play it. But I think it'll be fun to play, and I do believe you'll enjoy it. Just be ready for a challenge, because this is no walk in the hen house.
I see what you did there. Well,
I try.
$15 on Blazing Beaks. What do you say?
I also think this is good, and depending on if the sale's still going or not, you might be able to get it for $7.50.
Yeah, I know QubicGames, a lot of times they'll have their games on heavy discount if you own any of their previous titles. So if you own any other QubicGames titles, which we've covered a number on this show, check the store. You might be able to save a couple of bucks.
Oh, is that what it was? I assumed it was just like a general sale, but that all the more reason if that's pretty cool.
No, it's QubicGames. It's like a loyalty reward where a lot of their games they'll release and they'll be half off, or I've seen some like 80% off if you own a previous QubicGames title. It's really, really cool that they do that.
I have to agree with you, especially because again, games like this are pretty fun. So I would be hard pressed to not buy a game on the discount, knowing that it's just a thank you discount, if anything.
Yeah, well, since you're enjoying it so much, I might have to grab it while it's a couple of bucks off. Did you quack at me?
Oh, I quacked at you. Quacking
you
up.
Bastard. You bastard.
That's right. Bastard bird.
Well, you can just cluck off.
Well, I guess I will just waddle on off.
Oh, man. Well, one last game for you to talk about before we move on is called Steel Rats, developed and published by Tate Multimedia, released May 17th on the Xbox One for $14.99. Wreck and ride in a visceral and groundbreaking evolution of the 2.5D action arcade genre, fusing destructive octane-fueled motorbike combat and death-defying stunt gameplay set in a visually stylized retro future world. Switch between 4 unique characters as you wreak havoc. Pernell, what is Steel Rats?
Steel Rats is an unexpectedly fun game that will take a little adjusting to get used to, which I'll get into.
Oh, yeah.
But otherwise, it's a great time. So what is Steel Rats? You control you control all 4 of them, technically, as you find them. God, I'm jumping ahead of myself. Anyway, you control a biker from the Steel Rats gang who is actually on a mission to save the world from a bizarre mechanical menace. I'll just put it that way, and you can figure out what the heck that is and where it comes from as you play through the game. But how does the game play? Well, it is a 2.5D bike platformer. Bike platformer. You hold the right trigger to drive your bike to the right. If you are facing right and you hit the left trigger, you will hit the brakes on the bike. And if you then hit it again, you'll drive in reverse. If you press the circle button, what is it? I am so bad. I'm going to pick up an Xbox controller right the heck now.
B button changes your direction.
Thank you, sir. I'm looking at B button will change your direction. So once you've changed directions, it also reverses the triggers. So you'll hit. I
wonder if I know you covered it previously on the PS4, which is kind of why you got the circle thing mixed up. I noticed on the Xbox version of the game, because I played on Xbox, I figured it would be good to have a joint review so we could bounce ideas off each other. I did not notice that it switched which is accelerate and which is brake. It just stayed the same for me. So I don't know if that's something that they patched in.
No, they didn't patch, and that's my brain being stupid.
Oh, brain fart.
It is total brain fart. So they don't switch them. It's just right accelerates, left trigger brakes, and reverses.
Because I know there are some games that do that swap the controls on you, and it's weird to experience. So I wonder if... I'm sure we just got confused with something else.
No, it was me. You were right. I got confused. And I'm glad I didn't, because honestly, I feel like in my mind, if that was the case, it would have been really hard to get used to something like that. Turn your bike, now switch the triggers. Yeah, it's easier just to be like, one is always accelerate, one's always brake, which this does to clarify. So, you press right trigger to accelerate, left trigger to brake, and eventually reverse if you hit it again. If you press up and down while you're accelerating, your bike will actually go into the foreground or into the background, sort of. The way I'm describing it might seem weird, but basically think of it as like going up and down on a wide plane. So you will be maneuvering your bike like this quite a bit throughout the game. One other element actually two elements more for the maneuverability of the game is there's a jump button. So you can make your bike actually jump by pressing the Y button. And while you're in the air, if you're falling from a certain height, you can actually make your bike kind of do like a flip, sort of like how it works in like Trials or like Excite Bike 64. How you want to lean your bike forward or backwards and flip it or whatever. So you'll be making it so that your 2.5D bike is positioned properly to land jumps and things of that nature. The other thing that I need to mention, and is very important, is that there's an actual button that will allow your bike to activate what's sort of like a wheel blade of sorts. And what that does, it does two things. Three things. One, it gives your bike an accelerated boost. So while you're using it, your bike will go faster. Second thing it does is it allows your bike to tear through enemies and tear through a number of stationary obstacles. Like I say, there's a pipe in the middle of the road. You can use the saw blade, the wheel blade, to just rip right through it.
Just buzz on through.
Damn right. And it feels good to do it. Just like... You're like tearing through cars and all kinds of mess.
I was going to say, what feels better than blazing through a pipe? Cutting through a goddamn car.
It's really cool. It's a lot of fun.
It's satisfying, too.
It really is. It really is. And then, like, the last element to this blade is that while it's activated, if you drive over a certain, like, they're very standout, so don't think of it as like, oh my God, I don't know where this is. But they're like, sort of like corrugated roads. If you drive your bike over those, you will actually ride up the walls you'll ride up the walls that they're built out of. So you can drive into the wall, drive up the wall, along the ceiling, and then flip the bike off the ceiling and land on a new platform. So it results in a lot of fun, vertical platforming as you're like driving the bike up the wall, jumping off the wall, flipping the bike so you can land on the adjacent wall and then drive up that wall. It gets to be a lot of freaking fun to do that. It's enjoyable. Occasionally, you'll also come across bullets, which while you're holding the bullets, you can use one of the trigger buttons to actually fire bullets at enemies as well. So, enemies, I just mentioned those. So, what are they? Well, a variety of different mechs that show up, and each time they do, the game will give you like a quick cinema to kind of give you an idea of what it's called and how it attacks. So, it already pretty much tells you this is the kind of enemy you're facing, figure him out. And when the enemy shows up, you can kill him in one of a few ways. Well, there's a ton of ways, actually. But the main ways are drive through them with the saw blade running, and you'll either kill it outright or you'll do damage and chip at it until it dies. Second thing is you can use the aforementioned bullets from the gun to fire shots at them. You don't have to aim them, thankfully. The game kind of auto-aims it because aiming a gun while driving a bike would be bullshit. and the developers knew that. So it kind of auto aims that for you just to kind of get the shots off. And the third way to attack them, which in and of itself is a massive umbrella of options, is by using your biker's special abilities. Each of the 4 characters in the game has its own skill tree, which can have features unlocked on it. This skill tree determines what specific abilities they get for normal attacks, their special attack, and their ultimate attack. So, for example, the starting character that you gets a robotic sentry bot. I love how I said robotic sentry bot. Yeah, that's redundant. Anyway, you get this robot that flies around, and then you can upgrade so it can fire lasers at the ground and attack guys that are off in the distance from you. So he's got like a sort of little helper buddy who flies around with him. He can also create sort of like earthquakes in the ground as his ultimate ability. So that kind of does like a good like area cleanse for him. So you'll be earning upgrades for that, which I'll get into how you earn them in a second. But you'll earn upgrades for these items. Then you'll purchase them using points or junk points that you get throughout your gameplay sessions. And then you'll be able to use those abilities or their upgraded versions. How do you get these abilities? Well, as you play each stage, they will have 3 icons off to the side of the loadout for the stage starting. In order to earn these different icons, you have to get a certain score threshold on each stage. For each threshold you break, you get one of those things. An icon could either be an upgrade for a character, it could be a costume for a character. And I want to say there's also like costumes for the bike that you could unlock as well.
Yeah, the bikes have different skins too.
So those are the things you can unlock from those different threshold markers. Also, hidden on stages, there's like the occasional like secret, which if you can find it will unlock a sort of like vignette on like a sub menu that kind of gives you more details on the Steel Rats world, i.e. the characters or just the situation that's taking place, all through the eyes of a reporter who, funny enough, is my current icon, or my avatar rather, because it's a really cool art style for that reporter. But you start out with just one character, but as you play through the game, you'll eventually meet new characters of the members of the Steel Rats, and they'll follow along with you on the adventure. You'll be able to use all 4 of them at the same time, just using one by pressing a thumbstick to switch between them. They each have their own health bars and their own special ability gauges. So you will be able to switch back and forth between them in order to kind of balance out their health and active ability time. So sort of like how Ninja Turtles was on the NES, be smart about when you want to bring a character out and conserve health.
Yeah.
You can heal them throughout stages, though I will admit sometimes you won't want to do that. You won't want to heal them at the heal stage that will sometimes be littered on the stages. Why? Because in addition to the 3 icons I mentioned to you, there are also sub-goals on each stage. How many? Take a guess, because you already know the number.
Let me guess, it's 3.
It's totally 3!
Oh my god, it's 3.
Shocker! So each stage has 3 goals that the game wants you to hit. Sometimes it might be getting through a stage without healing any of your characters. Other times it might be beat the stage in a certain amount of time, or kill these guys using this method, things like that. And if you fulfill those, the game will reward you with extra money, points, or whatever, which again is used to purchase the upgrades for the characters. Honestly, it feels like it's really easy to farm upgrades for characters, so in the end, it won't be too difficult to unlock all the abilities. If anything, it's probably harder to get access to all the abilities in order to unlock them with the points, the junk as it is.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's not necessarily a detriment either, because I feel as though I don't want to actually have to suffer to get stuff. I just want to be able to get it through fun gameplay. Obviously, there will be some challenge, but nothing that's got me beating my head into a wall or anything. Now, this game, due to the fact that it has like a weird hybrid of like Excite Bike Trials and like some kind of like running gunner, like Contra or something. Well, maybe not Contra, because it's not running and you're not blasting bullets like a madman. But anyway, the point is, as you are trying to do all the functions that this game has, it will take getting used to, especially if you've never played a game like this before, which I'm going to wager you haven't. So you won't be just busting out U-turns and hopping pits and grinding up walls like it's nothing seamlessly. It's going to take some getting used to. But it's not the controls of the problem. It's just the player adjusts to the fact that this is how the game operates. And you will adjust to it, just like you have with any other gameplay style you've become accustomed to over the years. And when you do adjust to it, you'll enjoy it. I honestly found this game to be quite a bit of fun. And I like the fact that it did something that I consider to be different in this landscape of platformers and vehicle-driven games that all just kind of ape off of each other. This one feels very unique in that right. And it's a great game.
Yeah, I really enjoyed my time with the game. Unfortunately, I didn't have nearly as much time as I wanted because I think my Xbox is starting to shit out on me, which is always fun to, experience in life. But it's a gorgeous looking game. I love the wheel blade. Getting to just buzz through shit is fun as hell. I love riding the walls and riding the ceilings and just doing tricks. And it's like you mentioned, the feeling of having these elements of trials gives a platformer such a unique feel.
It really does. It really, really does. And like I said, at first when I was doing it, I was like, I don't understand. Why am I doing so badly these jumps? But eventually you're kind of like, okay, I got to set up this jump, ride up this ramp, jump off, activate the saw blade, ride up this wall, jump off, flip, grab the other wall, ride up it, run across the ceiling, let go, flip, hit the bridge, start driving, buzz through these guys, do a spin. By the way, if you hit the turn button twice in succession, you'll do a spin out, which hurts everyone that's around you. So you don't necessarily have to always aim your attacks. You can just be like, fuck it, kamikaze, and just whack guys. So you'll adjust to all that kind of stuff. And it feels good to traverse the map in those segments. It's almost like a weird hybrid biking puzzle platformer. It's a lot of fun.
And you want to know the best part?
What?
The game was originally $20, and for the Xbox One, they dropped it to $15.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's a good discount.
So the question is, $15 on Steel Rats, what do you say?
Well, I thought it was worth 20, so it's definitely worth 15.
I agree. It's a lot of fun. I can't wait to put more time into it. It's just so unique and so interesting, and I love when games try something new.
I agree, because it's very easy just to do more of the same.
Agreed. Oh, man. Well, Pernell, it is always good having you on chatting about this stuff. Do you have any final thoughts before we move on to Chris?
No, actually. Just don't be a Pernell and actually get 8 hours of sleep every night if you can. Also, drink milk, strong bones, beautiful skin, and a healthy body. It pays to save. Wells Fargo Bank. Also, I got, treat your weeds and treat your roses to a heaping helping of lawn care products. It'll save you smiles in the long run. Also, more rambling.
All right, moving on. Chris Taylor's here. Chris, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing all right.
Blimey, that's a good accent you got there, mate. Crikey.
Yeah,
that's not a knife. This is a knife.
We were just talking before rolling about how all YouTube Switch indie reviewers are British or otherwise European. So we were just talking about doing European accents.
Oh, we are terrible.
Like a pan-Euro sort of accent.
So how was your weekend?
Oh, it was pretty good. Nice and rainy. Getting rain down here, so good excuse to stay in and play video games. I'm still on my Fairy Fencer F Advent Dark Force kick. I've now beaten the game twice and seen two of the storylines. It's really cool. Like, they actually the entire second half of the game changes depending on what you do in the whole pulling swords out of the, statues of whatever. Like, basically, these decisions that you make in the game determine 3 different endings, but it's actually 3 entirely different second parts of the game, including different characters that you can recruit and stuff, so...
Oh, that's cool.
Now I'm going for the third, presumably worst one, so... But... And, yeah, it's been really fun. This game is getting better and better, but I'm finding it harder and harder to sell to people.
Why?
Well, it's like, you kind of have to see the game, I think, because my one friend purchased the PS4 physical version, and she showed me the box, and I was looking at the screenshots on the back of the box art and reading the descriptions and stuff, and I was like, this doesn't say anything about how this game is, like, super absurd and, like, 80% comedy. It's just like, it looked serious and anime and stuff, and I was like, I wouldn't play this based on looking at it like this. But she saw the actual game for just a few seconds when I was playing it, and that, got her into it instantly, so...
Huh.
I don't, I'm no marketing person, but be better at marketing, everyone. But yeah, so I'm still having fun with that. I think I've clocked 70 hours now.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
I know that doesn't come anywhere close to your Skyrim numbers, though, does it?
No, it's not even a 10th. But I haven't been playing Skyrim lately, so there you go. That tells you something about it. And the other thing is I got a new PlayStation 4 controller that has asymmetrical sticks. Which
Yay!
Yay!
How God intended.
Yes, and it's so much better. In fact, Devious Dungeons 2 is the first game I got to really dig into with it, and I played it for hours, and it was just fantastic.
Nice. Well, should we dive into these then?
Yeah, let's get into it.
All right. Well, the first game to talk about is called Devious Dungeon 2, developed by Woblyware, published by Ratalaika Games, released May 14th on PS4 and Vita, 15th on Xbox One, 17th on the Switch for $7.99. The castle's ever-shifting halls are filled with deadly monsters. Treacherous traps have claimed the lives of many adventurers. It's rumored that the castle contains treasures beyond imagination. However, it is also the domain of the summoner, and he does not look kindly upon uninvited guests. Chris, what is what is Devious Dungeon 2?
Well, Diva the blah 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 blah. Did I get that right? Did I pronounce it right?
Yeah, pretty close.
Should I have done it in a European accent? Okay. Devious Dungeon 2, or Dieu, just to keep the alliteration and the Europeanness going. So this is a almost roguelike. It's actually rogue-unlike, I'm going to call it. Side-scrolling platform adventure sort of RPG. So the whole thing about this, well, the story that you read is like literally the entire story. I think, they just basically drop you into a hub town, where you can purchase stuff and you can listen to a bard sing about how all the characters die. Like he just scrolls through the 3 different character types and just does all these rhyming couplets about how they get killed, which is kind of fun. And, then you go into this dungeon, which is a castle that is split up into all the different components of a castle, of course. And each one of those components has somewhere around 5 different levels in a boss fight. And each level has sub-levels, so it's actually quite a lot of levels in this game. But the actual layout of the castle changes every time you play. Well, not the layout of the castle. You still go through the parts of the castle in the correct order, but the actual stage design changes. Now, I'm not sure if this is random or procedural, or if it's just scrolling through. It says it's cycling through different stages, so I must not have played it enough to start seeing them repeat, or I could be going by bad information. It could be procedural. Either way, you get into each level and they change every time you revisit them. The way you revisit them, of course, is to get killed and sent back to the hub town. Now, this is where this is different than a roguelike, because it sounds like I'm setting it up to be a roguelike, but actually, every bit of experience and gold that you earn in the game is kept. So when you get back to the hub town, literally, like, you not only have everything that you had when you died, the game will actually issue you bonus money depending on your performance. And, of course, the money is what you use to get upgrades to your armor and weapon. Entirely different weapons, of course. And you also can get accessories and potions, which I didn't really get into using potions because I just kind of like...
Oh, they aren't usable items. They are just stat boosts.
Oh, they're just stat boosts. Okay.
Yes,
well, that must be why.
And not only do you not have to just choose a single one, once you buy one, they all stack. So potions should be the first thing you buy.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So I didn't get as much into that then, so that's a good tip. But yeah, that leads me to my next point is that, so the game deals with stats in an extremely simple way. In fact, the game deals with a lot of stuff in an extremely simple way. But the way they do it is that you purchase one item, let's say one weapon. It has this much attack, and that attack is just directly how much damage it's going to do. So if your base attack is 9 and your weapon's attack rate is like 12, then you will do 21 damage to enemies. It's very, very simple. And then, each of them have a certain swing speed and a certain range. But once you unlock one, then you unlock the next, and then you unlock the next and the next and the next. You have to go in order. You can't just, save up your pennies and go for the best weapon early on, which is what I call Dragon Questing it. You can't Dragon Quest it. You have to purchase each weapon and each piece of armor and each potion. And, like I said, the effects are cumulative, and I suppose the potions stack. And I guess the accessories do, or are they cumulative as well?
Those are single item as well.
Okay, single item.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So, there's a whole lot of opportunity to power through the dungeons as you are proceeding, and therefore, no matter how hard the dungeon gets, which I actually really, really appreciate that this dungeon, or that this game does not get very hard very quickly. It has a pretty slow curve, and I like that. It feels a little bit casual, but then once you really get into it, you see there's more depth to this thing. So, because I got through the first several stages, no problem. I was like, oh, this is easy, actually. And then once it actually started laying into me with the groups of enemies and, more powerful stuff, then I was like, aha, this is where the challenge is. It's, it's gradual.
The way it should be.
Exactly. And it's basically you have 3 types of characters to choose from. I decided to start a game with each one, which you get 3 save slots per, profile, so that's nice. So you have your barbarian, who is, each one of them has a benefit to them, and, of course, not having the benefit of the other characters is a drawback. So your barbarian is kind of like your most basic guy. He has a regular jump and such, but he actually has a 20% damage reduction across the board, which is kind of good because unless it's in a potion somewhere, there's not really a whole lot of things that reduce damage. When you buy new armor, it literally just adds more HP to your pool. Mm-hmm. So, having the barbarian is a good way to get into the game because it kind of gives you beginner mode in that sense because things aren't hurting you as much. But then you get into the more fun guys. You have the mage, who not only are all of his weapons projectiles, and each weapon that he gets seems to have a different little effect. Like the barbarian gets effects too, like freezing enemies or poisoning them. But it's every once in a while. Like the mage, as soon as you start unlocking new weapons, it's just each one is just radically different. And like I said, they've got great range because they're projectiles. And he also has the ability to float across the screen very briefly as a kind of double jump. Think Princess Peach in Super Mario Brothers 2.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so he kind of has that. And his little 16-bit sprite does this leg scooty thing when he floats that amuses me greatly, so I quite like the mage. And then, of course, there's the rogue, which has the classic double jump. It's just a straight-up double jump, and his weapons kind of alternate between being really fast, short-range weapons and also projectiles. So he's kind of a fast character. Yeah, he plays for, what you would play with a rogue for is that fast and versatile.
Yeah, that's who I've been using.
Yeah, I like all 3 of them, actually. I've definitely played the most with the barbarian, just because I like to tank sometimes. And yeah, as I was playing through this game, I just had this great feeling that it was just I don't really have to stay on my toes so much here. It's casual, and no matter what happens, I'm going to end up not losing anything but progress. And in fact, you can start at the beginning of a level, which, the levels have several stages, but at least you get to start, you get to choose where you want to start over again. You can even pull yourself back a little bit and go to an earlier level to kind of grind through again. And this is the kind of game that plays well enough that I actually do really want to go back through and grind. That does not bother me one bit. So yeah, I mean, the graphics it's basically a 16-bit looking game. The music is 16-bit sounding. Neither of them are super impressive or anything, but the game is all about functionality, I think, and it definitely brings the fun. So all of that is just icing on the cake, you know?
Yeah. Well, for $8 on it, what do you think of it?
Yeah, $8. This is a tasty cake. I say, you know, Ratalaika stuff is usually cheap, and sometimes it's, you know, they'll go way out into left field on some things, and it becomes a little harder to recommend. This game is not hard to recommend. This is definitely for people who want to just, like, play a cool, like, sword slashing, you know, platformer and not think too much about it. You know, just get in there and make your character better, and then get further until you get to the end. So, and $8, definitely a good price to pay for that.
Nice. Yeah, I'm going to jump in and agree with you. I have been addicted to Devious Dungeon 2. I love the first game. The second game is just more of the same, and that's a very good thing.
Yeah, I know about the first game. It's just they just kind of added on a few things to this one, right? Like,
yeah, they have the different characters now. It's longer, more stages. Overall, though, it's still very similar to the first game. It's just more of what you enjoyed.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like then that you can dive into this second game without having to play the first game for sure.
Oh, yeah, easily.
Okay, cool.
So pick this one up.
Yeah, do it.
All right, next game to talk about is Project Nimbus Complete Edition, developed and published by GameTomo, released May 16th on the Switch for $19.99. Paint the sky with fire, high-speed mech action. Project Nimbus is a high-speed mech action game set on a devastated future Earth where the player maneuvers a weaponized humanoid general-purpose battle frame. Engage enemy units with various weapons and defeat huge bosses and unique ace pilots. Chris, tell us about Project Nimbus.
Sorry, I was drinking. I thought there'd be at least one more sentence in that intro.
Nope, tough shit.
Okay. Well, of course, this is one that I actually requested, because I was very interested in playing what it looks like, you know, a really cool, breezy, like, mech game. And there really aren't a lot of those. A lot of mech games have the problem of being kind of bogged down by too much menuing, or like sloggy controls, or, you know, some other thing, or, you know, $200 controllers, if you remember that Xbox game.
Oh, Steel Battalion.
Steel Battalion. Or Steel Battalion 2. We swear to God, you don't need the controller for this one.
They had a Kinect one, though. That was a fucking shit show.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, I remember hearing about that.
Yeah, that was a trash fire of a game.
It was such a good idea. Yeah, bad implementation. Well, this game is a little different. And yeah, I don't really have a lot of experience with mech games that aren't, you know, what I just described. So I was really looking forward to this one. So this is a game where you do pilot a big ol' you know, Gundam-esque mech kind of thing. It's got the over-the-shoulder third-person view, and you basically just go through stages and defeat targets. Once all the targets are defeated, then you move on. And you know, proceed through a storyline, which is largely made up of, like, sort of military jargon, and just, you know, it was hard for me to follow, to be honest. It reminded me of games of, like, shmups that are really story-heavy, where they're sitting there and, like, giving you the whole story while you're trying not to die. And, like, you can't pay attention to it at all. It's like there's a distraction. So, you know, maybe this story gets really compelling later on, but for the first few levels, it definitely felt like that to me. But that's okay, because the gameplay more than makes up for this. So the difference between this and many other things that I've played is the fact that it gives you a huge amount of freedom to do what you want to do, and everything is easy to do. I was, like, shocked at how much I could accomplish with so few button presses in this game. And that's something that I always really appreciate as somebody who plays games like Skyrim, but with a controller, you know? Because, like, people get into hotkeys and, like, doing all this other whatever, and I'm like, I just want the controller in my hand to do the thing I want to do. If it needs more commands than that, it's not good. So, yeah, the game, basically, as soon as you get out there, you see the target guy, you know, the little red dots on the screen. You get these nice 3D arrows that, like, indicate exactly where the enemies are, and they have a number that scrolls up and down that tells you what distance they're at, so you can really quickly pinpoint, you know, And the playing fields are huge. That's the reason why you need to know this, because you'll see the arrows and the dots a lot, way before you actually see the enemies. And sometimes the enemies are already shooting missiles at you, and those have their own sort of reticules trained on them and stuff. And then once you get close enough to them, you can target them. You can multi-target, so, kind of like Star Fox in that way. And, sorry. From there, you then select what weapon you want to deal with them with. So that is just done with the directional pad on the Switch. You just go up and down, and the variety of weapons and how effective they are was really impressive to me. So you can either send out heat-seeking missiles to them, you can shoot them with a machine gun, and if you're playing in casual mode, then the auto-targeting is actually really good. There's casual, a normal mode that just takes away the auto-targeting, and then there's like the hardcore mode, of course, and each stage has the 3 different levels that you can select. So if you get in over your head on the hard mode, you can, scale it back a little bit to make more progress, which I quite like. Largely I played this on casual mode because I'm a filthy casual. And,
same.
Yeah. So even with just your basic machine gun, you can, shoot at these guys and, pretty much hit them. And, they each have the little life bar and stuff. And, enemies can range from being other mech suits to being, like I said, missiles to larger ships and, some pretty cool stuff. Like, you're cutting through, whole fleets sometimes. And, so you can do those things. And then there's a couple of weapons that really intrigued me, and they each have their own sort of tutorial levels in the story mode. So you actually really get to know these weapons. One is the laser sword.
Ooh.
So, yeah. So if you get within a certain range of an enemy, you can then use the A button to draw your sword and just sail after them and slice them in half, as opposed to shooting them at all. And in fact, some of the stages take place in more closed quarters where it actually benefits you to be able to do that. Not everything is just open sky. Sometimes you actually do have the inside of a spaceship or something like that. And then the other one is attack drones, which, so each weapon in the game has a recharge time. You have apparently you have infinite ammo. You just have to if you use too much stuff, then you have to just wait for it to reload. And so the drones take a long time to reload, but they go and do everything for you. So you launch. If you launch them with no target, they basically take care of missiles for you, and then you can use your sword on the actual enemies. Or if you're targeting the enemy, they will attack any enemy that you are currently targeting, and you just get to sit back and watch their life bar go down until they blow up. And then once it reloads, you can send them out again. So they're very multi-purpose, and one level requires you to win by only using them. So I quite like that they sort of throw that at you. And then just seeing from much later in the game, screenshots and stuff, apparently you really do get to light up the sky with fire. They apparently throw some really heavy artillery your way, and that's really exciting to me. So the other thing I like about this game is it looks really good. For a $20 game, I mean, the mechs are really well detailed. They've got real textures and stuff, even when in gameplay motion. And, this might be just coming from a guy who's more used to playing older video games, but I wasn't actually expecting the game to look as good as it does. Also, the backgrounds and skyboxes and stuff look really cool, too. And, like I said, the story kind of might sail over your head, but that was really the only thing about this game that I was, not 100% into. It's really fun to play. And like I said, I just really like that they took something that's normally extremely complicated and simplified it for plebeians such as myself. That's
not a bad thing.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Well, then overall, $20 on Project Nimbus. What do you think?
Yeah, I think this one is worth it. This is a genre that you don't see a whole lot. I think the last one I kind of played, and even then it was pretty different, was Liberation Maiden on the 3DS. And this is much better than that. So, I would say for sure $20, this one's worth picking up and checking out. The $20 price point is kind of a sweet spot for Switch indie games. Because that's where a lot of the big stars come up, and then just where there's the really high quality stuff that some people might miss because they're buying up all the, the popular things. So I feel like this is kind of in the latter camp. It's something that might get looked over at some point, but really, if you like shooters and you like the whole mech thing, then you really ought to check this thing out.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one last game for you to talk about is called Akane, developed by Ludic Studios, published by QubicGames, released May 17th on the Switch for only $4.99. Imagine the rain-soaked neon streets of Mega Tokyo, you, your loyal katana, and hordes of madless Yakuza. There's no happy ending this time. Take down as many thugs as you can with you. Chris, tell us about Akane, or Akane. We don't know.
Akane. In our,
Oy.
in our
Oy.
year. That was the game that we were looking up the pronunciation and could only find Europeans saying it. But I always assumed it was Akane because it's very clearly set in a kind of Neo-Tokyo sort of, not cliche, but what would you call it? The,
Stereotypical?
Sure, yeah. The well-worn path, for certain fictions, sci and otherwise.
Cliche?
Yeah. let's come back around and just call it a cliche.
That works.
So yeah, this is the rain-soaked cities of Neo-Tokyo. This lady who I don't know what she's doing or why she's there. The game didn't really explain it all that well, but she has a vendetta. She's trying to get to somebody, and all these thugs are about to get sliced in half on her path to that goal. But she appears to believe that she is going to die, so she's basically saying she's going to take as many people down with her as possible. And then when you start to, you have the option at that point to either just straight up start the game or go through the tutorial, and the tutorial is also her backstory, which is really interesting.
Oh, that's cool.
It's where you get to kind of peek into her stereotypical ninja training, where then she learns how to slice guys in half by actually slicing guys in half. And I'm like, what kind of training is this? This is very much a elimination style school. It's like, oh, you've enrolled in this ninja school and you've been here for a year. All right, just stand right here, really still, and then this lady's going to come at you with a sword. But don't worry about it. Everything's going to be fine. So, the game actually teaches you how to do every single move in the game, which involves basically slashing dudes with a sword, shooting them with a gun, which is kind of a twin stick shooter situation. And you have a gun that fires, one shot at a time, but one shot's all it takes because this game's kind of realistic on, how deadly swords and guns are. That is to say, instantly and very much so.
Nice.
And, then the game teaches you about basically building up your sort of boldness and your, I guess it's kind of like a rage meter. And, with consecutive slashes of the sword, and as you kill more people, then your bars go up, and then you're able to use special moves, including one that's that cool, like, the ninja, just darts in a straight line, and then they appear on the other side of that line, and all the dudes behind them just all fall over at the same time in various states of evisceration. So you get that move in this game, which is kind of cool. But yeah, once the actual game proper starts, it is, you're basically, on the street, 4 guys are coming at you, and this, action starts instantly. You, slash and shoot and just kind of make your way through, waves upon waves of enemies, sometimes a dozen at once. And the first time you get hit, you die. And, then you get to start over again. That is literally the whole game. So of course, this being the kind of game where you're, trying to progress to the end, there are certain upgrades that you can make to your character. Which is funny that they say trusty katana, like as soon as you beat the first boss, your katana gets replaced. But, anyways, so the way that they handle it in this game is unlike Devious Dungeon 2. Instead of keeping like tally or, giving you money or experience or anything like that, you basically have to meet achievement style goals in order to improve what you got. So you have to, in order to get like better gloves, I think it is. The game actually will tell you, it has a persistent, gauge on the bottom right of the screen that tells you what your goals are and what you need to do in order to improve a certain piece of your equipment. So, like one of them is like, slash 30 bad guys with the katana, but maintain 100% accuracy. And then just as soon as you do it, then it's done. And if you get killed, then now you have a better item that you can use every time from now on. And then it might raise that number to like 50 or something like that. Or give you an entirely different project to do altogether. So some of these are very hard to do. Some of them require you to have your like one gauge, your boldness gauge, all the way up to 100, which I never even got at any point. But it's all about learning the way the combat works in the game and how to build up, how to stack up those stats. So, all of that's just a learning experience. Interestingly, one of the pieces of gear that you can improve on this character is the cigarettes that she is smoking constantly.
What does it do when you upgrade a cigarette?
I don't know yet, because that's the one where you have to get the 100 boldness. So as soon as you achieve 100 boldness, I guess she gets better cigarettes.
All right.
This ain't a game for kids. So,
well, it is M-rated, so...
so kids, stay away from this one. It will tell you about how cool smoking is. Now, how hard it is to get good cigarettes.
That's what the kids need to learn.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, it's basically, it's a fancy, it's hard to really pinpoint what the graphics are going for because the animation is really fluid and looks great, but it's very detailless and sort of 8-bit. So it's just extremely stylized in a pixelated style, but clearly, modern. Yeah. Songbringer was another one that was like that. And I don't really know how to describe it. But the game looks really cool in motion. The only thing that kind of got to me after a while is just the fact that you're slashing like 1 or 2 dudes per second in an average gameplay, especially after the first 5 minutes. Like, I was just getting tired of hearing the squishy tomato sound. But you can turn that off. Also, there's an extremely annoying screen shake in this one. Because it's not a screen shake like if you get hit, the screen like jostles or something like in certain games. Yeah. It just occasionally glitches the screen where it jumps. And
weird.
It hurt my eyes, man. So you can turn that off, though. So that's just a minor detail. That's something that I would recommend turning off if you're sensitive to such things. But if you just really like seeing screens glitch out sometimes, then turn it on, I guess. But yeah, no, it's really smooth. It's very fast. Your blood pressure will go way up on this one because, again, one hit and you're dead. When enemies train their guns on you, which you get to see the little line, you got to get out of there, or there's actually a move where you can deflect bullets with your sword, if you have good timing, which I do not. But yeah, if that gunshot, like as soon as it goes off, you're dead if you're not blocking or you haven't killed that guy yet, because the guns actually work like real guns. It's not just bullets you can dodge. It's like instant bullety death. Yeah. So, I was really impressed with this one, actually. But yeah, there's not a whole lot to it. It's just play the game over and over and over again and kind of space out and try to get that progress. Or, really buckle down and, strategically play in order to, get a certain thing improved enough and, try and get through as much of it as possible.
It sounds like a good stress reliever game. Like you had a shitty day and you just want to kill a whole bunch of things.
Oh yeah. This is a great game for if your method of stress relief is just slicing up a bunch of dudes. It's real good for that. And like I said, the gameplay is instant. Like as soon as you die, you start over.
Nice.
Like they don't bother to like tell you. They give you one little splash screen that you can skip that tells you how many people you killed and what your record and accuracy and stuff is versus how well you've done in the past. And like I said, that's over in like less than a second and you're just running through it again. So
nice. Well, overall, $5 on Akane. What do you say?
Yeah, $5. I mean, again, that's the price point where it's really hard not to recommend something. But I do applaud this game for its, for how fluid and nice it looks. And I do appreciate the, despite the kind of lack of variety of gameplay, like I said, it's really only doing the one thing. I do like how much detail went into doing it. That is to say, all the special moves they give you, all the, ways that they teach you how to use them, and, the strategy involved, and of course the high difficulty, which a game like this kind of needs. I would say this is I would recommend this one. It's not for everybody. So it's definitely for the kind that likes to see, dudes sliced up like, ketchup packets, basically, like just constantly.
And it's only $5.
And it's only $5. So, just check it out. And if you like it, then go ahead and buy it.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Chris, thank you as always for coming on. Always a pleasure having you on chatting about this stuff. Do you have any final thoughts before we move on?
Just like, comment, and subscribe for more content.
Final game to talk about tonight is called Dragon's Lair Trilogy, developed and published by Digital Leisure, released May 17th on Xbox One for $19.99. Included are all 3 arcade classics, Dragon's Lair, Space Ace, and Dragon's Lair 2 Time Warp. Checking this one out. Jacob Garner, how are you doing?
I'm hot and sweaty.
Delicious.
I know. In fact, I'm really regretting that you're not here, because I would make you touch the small of my back, which is like it's its own Great Lake of sweat, and it's disgusting to touch. I can't tell if you're like shuddering or if like you're. Well, I don't know, because it kind of sounds like you're creepily laughing, like you want to touch it. I'll let you lick it if you want, but you got to pay to play.
Oh, Jesus. Anyway, Dragon's Lair. How's Dragon's Lair Trilogy?
Well, in all reality, it seems like they've re-released this trilogy on almost every generation. Because I remember them releasing Dragon's Lair on Xbox 360 as an arcade title, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think that was the only one they released, though.
Of those, however, I remember playing this on a DVD-ROM back when I was in college, and I think there was also like a PlayStation release as well. PlayStation 2, sorry. I don't know. It just feels like, all right, well, it's a new console generation. We got to re-release it. It's almost like its own Legend of Zelda, with or Super Mario Brothers with like Nintendo. How they keep except like this doesn't have its own proprietary, which I know I mispronounced right there, but screw you, I'm going to keep it anyway. I don't care. I'm an English major. I'll bastardize languages as I see fit. So anyway, first and foremost, I haven't played these games since I was in college. Again, I played on a DVD-ROM version, where you had to use your DVD remote to do all the actions. And I liked it back then. I thought it was interesting. And I kind of have mixed feelings about the games nowadays. But I guess I'm going to get to that later. Okay. So let's talk about this version. I don't know if they've remastered it at all, but it looks gorgeous. It looks fantastic. The animation is crisp. It looks years ahead of its time in some of the areas. And it's just like it. Thankfully, there is a movie version where you could just watch like the entire game just play out. And in fact, for you achievement hordes out there, Space Ace actually gives you an achievement if you just watch the entire movie, or watch the entire game, I should say. And so it's actually it's kind of fun in its own right to just sit there for like 20 minutes and just watch all the animation play out. So if you've never played any of these games before, you pretty much you're watching this animation go across the screen, and at certain times it'll give you a prompt that you're supposed to move left or move right or up or down or use your weapon button. And you have sometimes it doesn't even feel like a second to make the right move. So the game is all about reflexes and getting stuff done. And So if your reflexes are not the greatest, thankfully there is like an easy version. However, I didn't find that much easier. No, like I really didn't, because half the time it felt like I'm sitting there wondering whether it actually registered what I had hit or not. But a lot of it is just memorization as you keep losing, which you will do a lot on this game because, again, you have like mere seconds. And so, as I said, you need to somehow balance not being entranced by the animation in front of you and keeping an eye out for what you need to do. Think of it as, oh God, what? Wow. I just had it in my mind and I'm blanking. Those, God, the cutscenes where you have to push buttons.
QuickTime events?
Like Resident Evil 4. Thank you, QuickTime events. Think of it like a really early, shut up.
This is the grandfather of QuickTime events, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. And also, I was going to say, just watch as they quote us, as they quote us, like, in their reviews. SML podcast, what do they have to say? Yes, that's what I meant. Shut up.
That's a box quote for you.
So anyway, so essentially you're playing QuickTime events, the game, if you're not familiar with it. The controls seem a touch sensitive or not sensitive. I don't like it. Just everything just happens in rapid succession, and you have to be ready for it. It gets frustrating at first, but like you just want to keep. I could totally see how this like made a killing in the arcades back in the day, because it's just like after you like die, it pops you back in so quickly, and you just want to like hit continue or pop another quarter in the machine. Just to
another
keep going.
Quarter. This game was like $1 when it first came out.
Oh my God, I would be furious with
this.
That.
This was an expensive game. I remember playing it in an arcade when I was a little kid, and I think they had it for 50 cents. I put my money in, and it lasted me about 40 seconds, and I was done playing because I just didn't get it at the time.
Oh, yeah. And, yeah.
I just knew it was pretty animation, and the girl had big boobies. Yes,
and that is pretty much, I mean, it is Don Bluth, so yes.
Yes, thank you, Don Bluth.
You have awakened many a young male. What's that? Oh my! Didn't he also do the movie Wizards?
Was that him? I don't know. I don't remember.
Well, while we're doing this, I'll look that up while we keep talking. So yeah. So Dragon's Lair. You're playing a knight named Dirk, and you have to just you save your girlfriend from the bad guy. You're dealing with all this crazy stuff around the castle, like monsters popping out, anvils like shoving you into a wall, like giant balls rolling all over you, which is yeah, Joe, I'll let you make the joke. And then Space Ace is set in space. Different character, and it's like I couldn't get the entire plot, but it seems like your guy has been hit by some sort of a ray, and it turned him into this like little teenager guy, and so you have to go off and save the girl, and also every once in a while you'll energize and turn back into this like big buff Space Ace dude. So I wasn't all too sure on the plot. I actually did a lot better on Space Ace than I did with Dragon's Lair. Both, like, all three games are they're pretty fun in their own right. I mean, at the same time, I don't know. It's just like I kind of felt like they were a curiosity, I don't know if I want to say that it's just like it feels like they haven't aged well, but it's kind of how I feel about it. Like, do you get what I mean?
Yeah, it's a very unique game that, it was like, weird at the time, and it's still weird today, where it's basically just follow the prompts and hope that you're quick enough. There's no exploration. There's no intense combat that you have to, learn combos and everything for. It's very much just, I don't want to say it's a chill game because it's really not, but it's a very simplistic game.
But at the same time, it's not either because
it's not simple, but it is simplistic.
Right. Because I don't know if did you get to play through it or no?
I played through parts of Dragon's Lair and I watched Space Ace.
Okay. Because with the first one, Dragon's Lair, I don't know if you noticed, but as you're playing through, one of the clever things that they do to keep making the game, go longer, they actually flipped animation on some and so it's the same exact room, and you're like, oh, okay, all I have to do is just this, but it's like Dirk is entering from the right side this time instead of the left, and so you're like, oh, okay, it's this room. I just go right, and then you find out, oh, you're dead.
And there's a lot of randomization to it as well. Every time you play is not going to be exactly the same. So you have to memorize rooms, not the game. Right.
There's that too, because there's at one point you're going to fall down a chasm, and you eventually just have to hit left, and it'll decide what floor you're on and stuff like that. And so if you don't make it one floor, you'll make it on the next. And that could change from game to game as well. It's one of the few screens that I don't think you can die on. Glory be,
I'll find a way. Fuck that. But if people aren't familiar with the games by now, there's got to be a problem with them. I want to talk more about the package of this game because I think this is one of the most lovingly crafted collections that I've seen. It not only has the 3 games, but it has it has the movie version where you could just sit and watch it. It has behind the scenes stuff. It has sketches. Yep. It is a treasure trove of behind the scenes goodies.
It also has the videos that were shown off to arcade owners. Mm-hmm. As Dragon's Lair is coming out. This is what it does. Blah, 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 blah. You're going to make shitloads of money. And there's girl boobies. It's just, that's another thing too, because, obviously you want to view it as a video game. Another way to view this too is a historical curiosity.
True.
And because, obviously games like this really aren't made anymore. I'm drawing a blank on anything like this. The closest thing I can think of is QuickTime events in Resident Evil 4, you know? And those weren't randomized. The buttons you had to push might have been randomized, but that's about it, not the events themselves. And so it's just so not only are you getting a really good game package out of it, but you're also getting a nice lesson in video game and arcade history along with it. And it's something that I wish a lot of the other re-release. Oh shoot! Now that I think about it, I forgot to get those arcade 3-packs during the sale. Dang it! Anyway,
great time to think of that.
Yeah. Crud. What was I gonna say? It's really cool that the Arcade Archives is doing there's hundreds of games that are being released. And of course, Atari, is also guilty of just re-releasing everything with every new generation of video game consoles that comes out. But none of them really go to the in-depth amount that this does, which I honestly would love to see more of.
You would love the SNK 40th anniversary collection, because that was another one that put a lot of love and care into the package and not just a collection of games.
I know. Did we get her Xbox review code for it?
Weeks ago.
Jerk.
Proud of you.
You're dead to me, Joe.
Good. So $20 on Dragon's Lair Trilogy. What do you say?
Personally, I would have waited for a sale on this one, but I definitely think it's worth the $20 that you pay for it. it's not exactly the kind of arcade game I would have spent tons of money on, but I had fun playing the version that I got for Xbox One. I really enjoyed it. I think others will too. And at the same time, you get to step back, look at, a trilogy of great arcade games that look gorgeous. I mean, they look gorgeous on my dinky TV. I can't imagine how it looks on your 4K.
It looks good.
Yeah, like I'm sure that I don't know did they make it look better for 4K?
I don't know I don't know if they did like a full restoration or anything, but it looks good.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, not only do you get that, but also you get all the video game history that comes with it. For $20, definitely.
Cool. Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is it for this episode. Thanks, Jacob, for coming on and doing your review. Thanks again to Pernell and Chris for doing their stuff as well. Music, we're going to play a couple of tracks by Ferd K off of his Shadow of the Colossus tribute album, Battle with the Colossus, a nice heavy metal Shadow of the Colossus tribute album released through Materia Collective. You should check that out. Link will be in the description. Jacob, do you have any final words to end the show?
Actually, I do. Something I
God.
actually thought about. I thought about it too. I just want to say shout out to Joe for being an awesome dude. Last night at 1:30, I realized that I forgot to pick up some stuff on the backwards compatibility. Well, it's not backwards compatibility sale, but whatever. Some Xbox 360 titles. My Xbox 360 is still in storage. I have no idea where the heck it is. And I'm too cheap to put like a bunch of titles on my credit card again, but I had the credit for it. And I was just like, Joe, do you still have my like profile on your Xbox 360? And he's just like, yeah. And I was like, could you please go downstairs and take care of this for me? Joe got his ass up at 1:30 in the morning and he did it. Like,
you want to know the funniest part of that? I was on sleeping pills, so I don't remember shit.
Cool. Hey, you did everything you were supposed to. You picked up Final Fantasy 13, Final Fantasy 13 2, Lightning Returns, Final Fantasy 13, and Army of Two, The Devil's Cartel. And the best part is that you actually texted me. You're like, yeah, you know that this thing isn't backwards compatible, right? You can only play it on the 360. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Only the first Army of Two's playable on Xbox One, but that's fine. You're like, okay. So
whatever makes you happy.
Joe on sleeping pills came through in clutch. So thank you to Joe.
You're welcome.